Some stranger somewhere still remembers you because you were kind to them when no one else was. In college, I once helped a guy look for his lost pen. I didn't know him well, but we often sat near each other at the learning center to study. We didn't find the pen, but he was so thankful for helping him look. Like, really thankful. Wow, thank you so much for helping me look, that was so nice of you, I really appreciate it. His gratefulness made me a bit uncomfortable, but I didn't make a big fuss about it. After that we became more of acquaintances and he would greet me every time we saw each other and make small talk. 2 months later he killed himself. Now I'm certain he wanted a friend, or at least something more positive in his life. There was a guy from high school, it had been a while, and he wanted to meet up just to hang out. I was so excited. But then, a miscommunication made me end up at the wrong spot and the wrong time, and we gave up. He said it was fine, we will try again. He hung himself the next day. I always wonder if that miscommunication was the last little bit to tip him over. Wish we could have met up that day, you were always wondrous and positive. So if you're feeling down, seek help. And also, be that help someone needs even if it's just an ear. When my grandma passed away, I was rushing to the hospital to be with my dad. Back then we didn't have GPS, and it was my first time going to that hospital. I took a wrong turn somewhere and lost my way. I saw a police car on the side of the road, so I pulled up next to him to ask for directions. He saw the look on my face and without even asking what's wrong, he told me to follow him. He turned his sirens on and sped to the hospital. Apparently it was still far and he ended up driving for like 20 minutes to get me there. He could have just given me directions or ignored me completely. Instead, he made sure I got there and that I got there safely. That was 15 years ago and I still remember his name. About 15 years ago I dropped off my water bill and the town clerk asked how I was doing. Instead of the usual fine, I told her how stressful the holidays were for me. Not sure why I did that, but a couple days later she dropped off a gift bag with a scented candle. I mentioned it to her last year and she didn't even remember. Early in the pandemic, when masks were a scarcity, I had one of those cool handmade ones with the straps that you can tie around the back of your head. An old lady stopped me on the street and asked me where I got it. She explained she's been looking for one just like that for a while because the over-the-ears kind hurts her ears. I told her I bought it from a friend, but I hope she finds one. Then I walked back to my car and thought about it for a bit. I had plenty of surgical masks still from when I stocked up before the pandemic hit. I could get another reusable tie one. So I took my reusable one off, put on a surgical, and ran back. I offered my mask to that nice old lady and told her be sure to wash it and boil it, but other than that she would appreciate it more than me. She was on the verge of tears with gratitude. Even more fucked up, she told me that it was her birthday yesterday and she had a feeling something good was going to happen to her today. Oddly enough, it was my birthday yesterday too. We had the same birthday. If you gave a very, very lost, freaked out teenager walking around Trenton, New Jersey directions to her parents' office, after every safe person she tried to ask refused to even acknowledge her, I remember you. If you stopped to help with a car accident in North Jersey a few years ago and wrapped a shivering 4-year-old in your giant shawl and never got it back, I remember you. Sorry about your shawl. Shout out to the mom of the woman getting her wedding dress altered next to me. My mom died the week before, and you were so sweet and kind and I appreciate that. Shout out to the guy at the state park I got married at for randomly playing a song on your guitar and it was one my mom used to sing. This has been a hard year, and both of these strangers helped. I've never told this story to anyone in my life, but this post reminded me of the holidays a few years back when I came across this young lady who was standing on the sidewalk by the freeway off-ramp, holding a sign, with a backpack by her side, asking for $20 for a bus ticket back to her hometown. I'm typically not the kind of person who gives money to people holding signs, but something about her demeanor just told me this person is in need of help, so I pulled out a 20 and gave it to her without a second thought. I was expecting a half smile and a thank you, but she actually started tearing up and crying. Then she put down her sign, expressing the greatest of gratitudes, and started walking away to, I'm guessing, the Greyhound station, which was a few blocks from where she was standing. I haven't thought of her since that incident, but hope she's doing well now and she has her life back in order. My kind stranger's name is Dawn, and though I likely will never see her again, I will never forget her name or her face. My car broke down in the middle of a busy road, and she was the only kind person to stop and help me push it to a safe side. I was in my 20s and clearly a bit shaken, and she stayed with me until she was certain that I was cool and called a tow to come. It's been years and years since then, but I always try to do something kind for strangers when I can, as Dawn would. Shout out to the passerby in Tokyo who saw my friends and me looking lost in 2006, asked where we wanted to be, but had never heard of our hotel. She stopped other passers-by to ask them too, then took us to a little shop where the shopkeeper was sure to know and translated what everyone else said so we could understand what was going on. She made herself late for a meeting, but just wouldn't stop trying until we were headed in the right direction. More than a decade ago I blew a tire on the highway, miles from any service stations. No money and improper tools to complete the job. Several state troopers pulled up to tell me I had to get moving or I'd be fined. I told them I didn't have enough money for a tow truck the distance I needed to go and asked if they could help. They refused, drove off, and told me they'd be back soon to see if I was still there. My friend and I were stunned, but a very sketchy-looking Honda Civic pulled up, with two equally sketchy-looking guys coming out and coming toward us. These two guys helped me for an hour, we got the spare on, made sure it was tight, and then we shook hands and they left. It was amazing. Next day my friend and I bought a full kit for my car and started stopping to help literally every car we saw on the side of the road. I once rode a 14-hour bus trip beside a stranger. She was a quiet girl and didn't really try to start a conversation with me, nor did she try to extend on the conversations that I did try to start. The first few hours were really awkward, but I couldn't really move since the bus was full. The trip felt like ages and eventually I got tired and fell asleep. And at some point along the trip I woke up sleeping on her lap. I looked up towards her face and saw the warmest and kindest smile I've ever seen in my life. It was awkward saying sorry to her for falling asleep. I wanted to make up to her for being a bothersome human being, so I asked if she would want some free food on the next stop. But she replied, my stop was actually 2 terminals ago. That just shocked me to my very core. This girl literally missed her stop twice, just to let me sleep. It made me want to compensate her some more, but she refused every offer I made, but with a lot of persuasion she eventually just let me pay for her ticket to go back. She saved me from a lot of back pain and a possible stiff neck. She was the kindest stranger I have ever met. It happened almost 5 years ago, but I still couldn't forget her kindness. My mom died when I was in my mid-40s. The local paper had a feature on their website where you could comment on obituaries and express condolences. A woman my age posted how she was sorry for my loss, then said something to the effect of, you probably don't remember me, but I went to high school with you for a few months. I transferred there in the middle of the year, and you were one of the few people who were nice to me. Just wanted to let you know how much that meant to me. I did remember her, she was a very nice girl, and I thought she was cool. She left at the end of the year and we lost touch. Unfortunately, there was no way to directly reply to her for us to reconnect. But it really meant a lot to me for her to say that. I think of her from time to time and hope she's doing well. About 10 years or so ago, I was still living paycheck to paycheck. Still, I was finally making enough to where I could cook 3 square meals a day and wasn't just having toast for breakfast and a $1 microwave meal for dinner every night. I had stopped to get gas and saw a young woman at the next pump crying. She asked if I had $1 for gas. She had driven an hour to the city on fumes to see her grandpa who was at the nearby hospital and may be dying. She said she had been there for 30 minutes, not even knowing what to do. I had planned to treat myself to a movie that night, instead I filled her tank for her. She could barely even thank me through her sobbing. I knew she was broke like me. She didn't even know how she would get home, or if she would even make it in time to the hospital. She just knew she had to get there somehow. I'm sure some would call bullshit on her story, but you don't cry like that unless you're absolutely desperate. I've never told anyone about it. I just hope she was able to see him. I hope maybe she's also been able to help someone in need. When I was 8 years old, my family and I got into a horrible car accident in a taxi cab. This random lady saw everything and came over. She had a baby with her, so she took out a clean diaper from her bag and started wiping blood off my mother's face. I'll never forget her. She was so kind to complete strangers. A woman I'd never seen before or since talked me down off the railing of a bridge on a rainy night when I was 18. She looked like she had just come out of a business meeting or something, not really someone you would expect to stand out in the rain talking to some suicidal teenager. But not a day has gone by that I haven't thought of her in 33 years, wondering where she is, what she's doing, whether or not she has any idea what she did for me. There's a part of me that hopes someday she'll see some random internet post of mine and reach out, just so I can thank her properly. Tell us about a time when you helped out a stranger. Please share this video with others who enjoy stories about random strangers coming to the aid of people in need. Drop a comment, click like and subscribe to be notified when I post a new video. Stay awesome.